All right. Football player become president because of the suffering in Liberia. That's the music by our brother from Grand Bassa County. Mr. Joekai, welcome to Focus on Liberia, and thanks for accepting our invitation at the Yellow Hour to join us and to discuss Liberia.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me again. This is my second time on your show. And like I said to you at the close of the first discussion, don't hesitate to contact me anytime because Liberia is our common denominator and it is our responsibility to ensure that it is in good state. So I'm glad to be here today again. Thanks for bringing me on.
And thank you so much. So, Mr. Joekai is a fellow Liberian, a former contestant for the House of Representatives. He also worked with the Elections Commission, and Joekai, correct me on that election because it was you work with that body in West Africa. So talk to me about that, your experience with the Elections Commission.
Interestingly, I worked for the National Elections Commission of Liberia for 5 years, 2010 to 2015. And during my time at the commission, I had an opportunity to do elections work in the West Africa sub-region. I, under the auspices of ECOWAS, the UNDP, I was able to join my colleagues on electoral observation missions and technical missions, providing support to electoral commissions of the sub-region. In 2012, I was in Sierra Leone. Firstly, I went there as an expert presenter on the state of electoral violence in the Nano River Union sub-region and how, they undermine democracy. That was at the invitation of the United Nations Office for West Africa, but supported by the United Nations Office in Sierra Leone at the time. And that was a successful meeting that brought together all of the electoral commissions, the leaderships, that is, from Liberia, Cote d'Ivoire, Sierra Leone, and Guinea. And I did a presentation. It was very elaborate. We had very good conversation about the legal frameworks of those electoral jurisdictions, and I made recommendations in terms of what they're supposed to do to improve their electoral systems. I also supported Guinea in 2013 and 2015, respectively, during their electoral processes. Firstly, in 2013 for the legislative elections, and in 2015 for the presidential election. I was glad that I did, represented my country, represented the sub-region. Also on security matters, I did that in Mali, in Ghana. Don't forget, in 2012 also, I was one of the 10 persons selected by ECOWAS to investigate whether or not Ghana was ready for elections. Our recommendations were very helpful in ensuring that we guarantee the sustainability of Ghana's democracy.
Thank you.
I'm a long way in supporting democracy in West Africa, not only in our country.
Good. And so for this discussion tonight, we're going to be talking on trending issues and focus on Liberia Monrovia Bureau Chief, Mr. Randolph Glee, will be joining us shortly. He's back from Monrovia. He's in the United States, and he's going to be joining us to give us his fresh perspectives on issues in Liberia. But since election, let me quickly, before we get into our today's topic, let me quickly talk to you about elections. Because elections in Liberia, there have been a lot of calls on elections in Liberia. Number one, it says it's too costly to have elections, so now why not have election maybe once every 7 years, and the president doesn't go back, for re-election. Some say, well, like even from the presidency, elections are costly, so for these by-elections and things like that, pending, at some point, those kind of elections, we should have just somebody nominating, just like governors in the United States will nominate somebody to take over. So there has been whole questions about election. Then the free and fairness of elections back home, and whether the people are really, whether it worth it with all the time and money we spend behind election, only to sometimes get a result that we already know. What is your expert advice on elections in Liberia with all those things that I've mentioned?
Oh, absolutely, you're correct. Elections is one of the key topics, key subjects that we cannot ignore in our conversation about making Liberia better, because it is the means by which we institute our leadership. And Liberia subscribed to this whole system of governance that we call democracy, and election is at the heart of democracy. So election is not just something that is ordinary. Election is defined within the context of the role of the citizens. It is the means by which citizens are able to exercise their power, able to make a decision in terms of how they want to be governed, by whom they should be governed, and how they should actually be governed. So that makes election very critical because it's about the people. It should not necessarily be about those to be elected. It should be about the people, and that they push people to decide the quality of leaders that they elect to manage their affairs, because they entrust them with their mandate to be able to deal with the basic necessities of life, so that they can live a life of important. When we talk about elections in Liberia, whether or not it should be frequent, one of the aspects of ensuring that ensuring the significance of election is that it must be and it has to have parameters. So our constitution also defines the way Article 83A provides that elections shall be held.
Joekai, maybe if you have other things connected to your Wi-Fi, your connection is poor. Right, now we can see you. If you have other things connected to your Wi-Fi, you can turn them off so we can have a better connection.
It's my systems, everything is off. And yeah, everything is off. Is it much better now?
Yeah, your picture is kind of still, but go ahead.
Okay, good. So like I was saying, election is not ordinary. It's about the people, and election should be frequently held. Election is defined by certain parameters, and those parameters are international benchmarks. Okay, so those international benchmarks. Our constitution provides that we should have election because power is inherent in the people, meaning that they should be able to decide who should govern them, how they should be governed, and when they should institute such leadership. So it is not just ordinarily provided for, but it is provided for by our constitution in keeping with these established internationally accepted benchmarks. So there are two things that must happen for an election to be considered free, fair, transparent, or credible. And one of those things is that any given election must be held consistent with the legal framework for elections of the given country. So, for example, in Liberia, we have what we call the elections law that are designed that were
all right, we're still having trouble with that connection. If you're just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. We are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. This evening, we are discussing trending issues in Liberia. My guest, Mr. Josiah Joekai, and also Mr. Randolph Glee, who's going to be joining us shortly.
Okay, I want to
Yeah, you're trying to move to get a better.
Yeah, to get a better position. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And what we're going to do is we want to make this this interactive as possible. So we're
Yeah,
going to
this is going to be better.
yeah.
This is going to be better here now.
Okay. So we're going to be posting our numbers shortly so that you can join in and take part in the discussion.
So is this okay for me?
Yeah, that's okay. If you can close the blind behind you so that the light do not reflect a lot.
Is it okay now?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Okay.
So conclude on that election question so we can jump into our today's topic.
Okay. So as I was saying to you, elections is not ordinarily held. Election is basically defined within certain parameters, and those are internationally accepted benchmarks, and those benchmarks are guaranteed by our constitution. That's the 1986 Constitution of Liberia, because we as a country subscribe to the form of governance that we consider as democracy, and election is at the heart of democracy. So it is an imperative. Our system of governance is something that we subscribe to, and we have to exercise it. So it is the people in whose power is inherent. They make the decision how to institute their leadership, and then who to elect, as leaders of the country. So elections, in order for elections to be free, fair, credible, there are two things that must happen. The first thing is that said elections must be conducted within the scope of the legal framework for elections of the given country. And the legal framework for any given elections in any country has to do with the elections laws of that particular country, the constitution of that country, the portion that deals with elections, and all of the regulations, the guidelines, and the code of conduct that are promulgated by the electoral management body. A collection of all of these instruments constitute the legal framework for elections for that given country. And in order for elections to be credible in that country, all of those instruments must be satisfied in the conduct of the elections. The other aspect that must be satisfied in order for elections to be considered credible has to do with meeting all of the internationally accepted practices, in order to ensure that their elections are credible. As an embryonic democracy, a growing democracy, we have strived over the years to ensure that we meet these internationally established benchmarks, or that we conduct our elections consistent with our legal framework. But there are challenges that impede the process along the lines. And some of those challenges are strictly tied into the economic issues that we are having. Sometimes we don't have the resources ourselves, so we have to look out there, asking, friendly nations, asking other institutions to help, either with technical support or financial support, financial resources. I give you a classic example. In 2011, we had an electoral cycle, 2005 rather. We had the international community that entirely did our elections. They helped with the management aspects, they provided resources. Liberians were only recruited at the field level in the numbers to ensure that they support the effort. But in terms of the real technical expertise was provided by the international community under the auspices of UNMIL. So when we learned, to some extent, we were being allowed to manage our own elections, moving on up to 2011. But even at 2011, Dennis, you need to understand that with the international community to ensure that we developed an electoral cycle budget, in fact, an electoral cycle project of which a budget was cast by both the government and the international community. And that budget total was around $38 million, United States dollars. And so the responsibility of the government in that electoral cycle project was to provide the recurrent funds, $12 million that was supposed to, that cover rather, wages, remuneration, basic logistics, administrative costs. And the actual operational budget, which was to the tune of $26 million, that was provided by the international community through an electoral basket fund that was established by the community.
In other words, what you're saying is the country or the government has no choice but to have these elections.
So I was saying that that's one of the main challenges, because when you cannot finance your elections 100%, you definitely have to succumb to the call of your partners, the fund. You definitely have to accept their proposals, their suggestions. They will bring the technical expertise on board. They will bring the financial resources. They will, to a large extent, to take the course, in terms of how you should proceed as an electoral management body. So I was giving you this classic example, so that you
just hold on. Let me bring in Mr. Glee. I think he's trying to get in, but Mr. Glee, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. So Mr. Glee is joining us from Savannah, and he's joining us by phone because of some technical difficulty. Mr. Randolph Glee is our Monrovia Bureau Chief. He's just returned to the States. Mr. Glee, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dennis, and it's a pleasure to be back on Focus on Liberia. And let me take this time to also recognize senior brother Joekai. He's one of the best the nation can talk about. I had the opportunity to live in the same area with him on 12th Street. And later on, I was present when he worked with the Election Commission, and he created a lot of avenue for the young people to participate in elections, creating community awarenesses, and that was very good, I think. So it's a privilege for us to share this platform today.
Thank you. And our topic today is on the trending issues in Liberia, and we're going to mix it up today. So I'm going to list for you all the issues that we're going to be discussing, and then bring in our guests, bring in our audience, so that we can all discuss, and have the. But before I do that, you have been our Monrovia Bureau Chief. You work at the university as a lecturer in the social work department. Just returning from Monrovia, we want to ask you the question that we'll ask someone. What news?
All right, I love that question. That question gives, it's an open-ended question, so it allows you to see so much.
Time to welcome Randolph. Randolph, welcome. You are most welcome. It's really good talking to you again, especially sharing the platform. Yeah. It's an honor for me. It's been a long time since we met and interacted. So I'm very much appreciative of the opportunity to be here.
All right, thank you so much. But like everyone, most of the time when I'm presenting in my various classes here, most of the time I say we have two kinds of information. We have the Google information and we have the real facts on ground. Monrovia is there. There are a lot of challenges. Basic social services for citizens to receive them is difficult because the government is struggling. And with the school system, education is, you receive education in several areas. It's not just a classroom. You understand that the classroom is where you go and somebody talk to you. And after talking to you, you go into a community. And the community got dwellers. And the learning environment, the preparation of those who presenting the lesson. So our educational sector, there are challenges, and our day-to-day activity when it comes to the market, there are challenges, and the government herself is having some tough time. some of the tough time they are going through, they willfully walk into it, and some they could not avoid it. What are some they walk into? Let's use this case study with Ellen Johnson Sirleaf with that of Barack Obama. When Barack Obama took over from a broken economy, what he did, he looked for the best brains. And he went outside and brought in the wealth, those companies that already left. He brought them back so that he will create jobs. That is America. Let's talk about Liberia. When Ellen Johnson Sirleaf took over, she knew very well, being a political guru who has spent some time in our Liberian Valley politics, she decided to bring in the best so that they will attract investors to come and donor will give. Because Liberia has not lived on her own budget. We have always been supported by donors. So she brought Sai, she brought Akewele King, she brought Johnny Lewis. Johnny Lewis, he came to Ellen government through the recommendation of who? Kofi Annan. So what do you think will happen when Ellen wants something done in the UN tackle? She already got somebody there. You have World Bank. But that was not the case with our current government. They decided to bring in guys they call, the indigenous. That is good. But if you bring the indigenous in that are not prepared and ready to meet the world market, this is one of the questions that the former president of Nigeria asked Prince Johnson. He said, Prince Johnson, you want to be president, but who are your friends? Who are those you call your friends in Africa? Because there are times to make some decision, you will not be there. They will take your friends to talk for you. So now having guys who are not experienced in this government and other key places like the finance and like foreign ministry, you got people that public works, guys that will go out and speak. Because now, Dennis, if I leave from Atlanta years back, the way I live in Atlanta, I'm in Liberia and doing a project, you know the kind of life that I live there. You will trust me to give the money. But if you have not seen me, I have no record. How can you trust such person? So that is some of the things. And the government took over when we already have a broken economy that is all around the world, even in America that we're seeing today with our problem with finances. So when it comes to the question, how is Monrovia? Monrovia is challenging, and life is getting harder every day, but that is our home. We can't get away, and we have to be there to make sure that it happens. That's the only lane we can never be deported from.
Thank you, Mr. Glee. That's the voice of Mr. Randolph Glee, lecturer of social work at the University of Liberia. He's returned to the United States. Mr. Joekai and Mr. Glee, here are some of the issues I want us to be talking about today. Number one, the CPP, that's the Collaborating Political Parties. We have heard some things about them and how, having elections, sometimes it looks like things are breaking apart in the CPP, so we want to talk about that. We want to talk about the printing or the printing of the new banknotes that has been proposed or sent to the legislature for. We also want to talk about the war and economic crimes court issue that the president has sent to the legislature as well. We'll be expecting to elect new lawmakers. Next year, we started with the election issue, so we want to continue with that and say, okay, let's look at 2020. Are we prepared to have another election? Then the economic dialogue that was held, want to get some analysis on that. Then we come to disaster management. There have been some disasters taking place, the latest being the fire incident. Before that, we had the mine disaster taking place in Nimba. There was a flood incident last year that happened, and I think it was during the celebration. So the president was criticizing, why are you celebrating when people are having this? And all this. Then the last issue is the armor tanks that we saw in Liberia. These are all the issues that we're going to discuss today. So I'm going to put them on the table and ask for your analysis and your view and also bring in our audience. You know, we don't want to wait at the end before we bring them in. We all want to participate. So let's start with the issue of the CPP, the collaborating political parties. Mr. Glee, you are on the ground. How the CPP doing?
The CPPP, I don't know how many P or how many P, but
Only two.
I can say that. Okay, two. All right. When I was back home and I heard about the CPP, from history, it has been very difficult. It has been very difficult for us to collaborate as political parties. I can remember when they had the alliance during Taylor time, and they took them to Ducor, and PR40 went there, and the alliance broke down. Taylor only sent one card, PR40. According to unconfirmed report, cash was diesel, and the whole process broke down. So looking at the CPP, it's a brilliant idea to put forces together to be able to bring about change. But this is my problem. It's not about putting an idea together, but who will be willing to submit to who? Who's going to be willing to be the vice president? Who's going to be willing to be the standard bearer? Who's going to be willing to be this? Who's going to be willing to be this?
Okay.
So at the end of the day,
hold your thought right there. Let's go to Joekai.
Well, I think basically Rana started out very well. The issue of alliance or coalition working in our political system in Liberia has not been effective. It hasn't been effective. And I think that it is being due to deception, lack of commitment on the part of the actors. And Liberia has never been the focus of those kinds of conversations. It's always been about what individuals within the conversation will benefit at the end of the day. And so Liberia has always been the victim of that situation. But one person who changed the dynamics was Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. When she started a conversation with the Liberia Unification Party, a historic party, a classroom teacher, William Gabriel Cole, and the Liberia Action Party of also the late Jackson Fiado. Madame Sirleaf did not discuss with a focus on establishing an alliance or a coalition consistent with the normal practice. What she did was she fought hard to convince the leaderships of the two parties, Loop and Lap, to dissolve their parties and then merge with the Unity Party to produce something to refer to at the time as the Grand Unity Party. That was her strategy. And so what she did was she convinced them, they agree, the Liberia Unification Party, the Liberia Action Party, and quote unquote, the then Unity Party, they all proceeded to the Elections Commission and they committed to the process of undoing their identities as political parties, registered political parties, to form this one political party referred to as the Unity Party. I think that was smart on the part of Madame Sirleaf, which should be no surprise to anybody. That's the only way she was able to get the whole thing on board, the entire lab on board, that strengthened what you call the Unity Party that actually brought her to power. And I think that was the way she was able to succeed. But besides that, like I said, the issue of forming coalitions and alliances in Liberia have not been successful. So the CPP, in my opinion, is going to have some rocky roads because I'm not sure if they have finalized their paperwork yet with the Elections Commission. I don't think constituent political parties are feeling obligated to the discussions that are taking place in the absence of a legal arrangement. So if I were any of the constituent political parties by now, what I would be forging will be to fast track the issue of the understanding that will lead to a formal registration of the coalition or the alliance that they envision, so that it becomes binding on all of the parties involved. Otherwise, I foresee a rocky road ahead, and that will not be good for you know, the road to 2023.
Right. And it looked like most of the time we, in the frenzy of doing things, we form these organizations or these alliances or coalition even before thinking about the paperwork or thinking about some form of memorandum of understanding based upon which these things are organized. A case in point is the issue with the ANC candidate Simeon Taylor in the Cape Mount by-election. We all heard, or Randolph, you were in Monrovia at that time, and we saw what transpired. The ANC later succumbed to pressure to withdraw its candidate, which the ANC did, but the candidate said no. Is that a big crack in the CPP war, or is it something that is just minor that they can still move on and do something?
I think it depends on those involved, those political institutions involved. But I can tell you, from the day the CPP held together and Darius Dillon won, it's like everybody feels that there's a trump card now, and everything is possible. So everybody's fighting for their share of the cake. And with that, and not putting Liberia first, and somebody thinking how they can get into office, it's so scary. So I believe it's a crack within the within the CPP. You can even see on Facebook, all of the different actors on Facebook, they are all breaking away. I've been listening to Costa in recent time, reacting to ANC people. Lobo just broke away from CPP, and there are a lot of crap going on because different misconceptions and misfeeling, and people hearing this and that. But like and Joekai said, it is not about talking now. It's about trying to get back to the root and have a paper or document. Because if ANC is still a political institution, United Party is still a political institution, Liberty Party is still a political institution, what are them together? Nothing. They're still running a political headquarters in a day-to-day activity. So nothing holds them together. CPP is just operating in a thin air. But to have a solid ground, those political institutions should be dissolved and enveloped into one. Then we'll have something. And I know they're not ready to do it. Because every one of them you see has somewhat healing agenda. I believe my own man is the man with the clean record. I believe my own man is the man with the best experience. I believe my man is the man with all the different feelings and not thinking, not having short, long-range plans for our Liberian politics, how we can emancipate the minds of the people, because the best thing we should be thinking about now, where we are. Because it's like, Ellen took us 10 feet, but we are now back to the same place you took us from. How are we going to get from there? This is what we should be talking about. So with the CPP, I don't see them going anywhere. Because all those groups are held one voice at a time talking. They all got different feelings and different messages now on Facebook. So I believe just the political institution said, okay, brother, we're going to take you. Taylor, you're going to rest. But now he was cleared by National Election Commission. He said without ANC, he can go. So was he committed to the political party? Was he committed to the process? But I believe he feels that he got his popularity in Kema so he can make it. So that's one of the problems we have.
Yes, let me just come in a little bit to add to what Rana just put forth. you need to understand, Dennis and Rhonda, that the alliances and the coalitions are not being born, out of vacuum. They are being born out of a spoiled political system that we have. And we have a political structure whereby institutions don't matter. So it's not about the name of the political party, it's about the individuals, within the political parties that matter. So people look up to those individuals, and especially so those with the deepest pockets. And that's why all of these things, the economy has a bearing on all of these things. When the people are extremely poor, when the people are not independent to make the right judgment, the right decisions, they always look out for people who can give the handouts. So politics in Liberia is not about institution, it's about the individuals involved in the process. So when you look at the CPP right now, you see Boakai, you see Cummings, you see Ure, you see the rest of the folks. So people are holding on to their traditional political beliefs and support that yes, Boakai is closer to the presidency because he would benefit from a sympathy vote. And he was the next person. He was the person who actually challenged George Weah with significant votes, a little over 400,000 votes. Cummings, is the shining star, the newest sensation on the political landscape. He can make a difference. So these guys have not come to the realization that it is not about them. Right. And their supporters have now also realized that it is not about their so-called demigods who are their political godfathers. People have now realized that it is about the safety, the security of our nation, the growth of our economy. They have not put those first.
Let me stop you there, Joekai, because you mentioned about deep pockets, and because of the economic conditions, so people tend to vote or go a certain way. That brings me into the question of the chicken or the egg. So which one comes first? Do we have this, democracy? Because if the kind of leadership does not happen, we're always going to have this harsh political or economic reality. Right. So if we are swayed by our bellies and not our minds, what's going to happen is we're going to be in that never-ending vicious cycle.
Trust me, I see a different the dimension, and I can share that on this platform. I see that if the CPP doesn't strive to ensure that it is a legal entity within the framework of the laws, and making sure that they are registered by the Elections Commission and that they subscribe to the needs of the Liberian people, not to individuals within the constituent political parties. You will see a new uprising, not in the form of violence to seize power, but politically to ensure cleansing on the political landscape. I see that young people who have turned advocates in recent time because of the situation back home, young people who are committed to seeing a transformation of the political system, making sure that there is a leadership that will represent that alternative that Liberians are yearning for. I see them rising, coming together, irrespective of their individual interests. I see them happening. I see everybody coming together. And if you don't mind, if they are not careful, I mean, the Cummings, the Boakai, the Ure, and the rest of the guys, 2023 election is not going to be about them. It's going to be about us. It's going to be about some of us, our lives. It's going to be about us rising to the occasion, because it is sad that they are part of the old political generation. And I think they have this inherent belief that Liberia owes them, and that Liberia has to pay them by making sure that they give them leadership in our country. But we have to change that around. Our generation is responsible for this time of leadership in Liberia. And it is now befitting that we rise to that occasion to ensure that we seize the moment and ensure the political cleansing of our country so that we can restore dignity to our country and take Liberia another step further. That's what we need to do. And if they are not mindful, that is going to happen, because the crack in the CPP is not different from the cracks in all other alliances and coalitions that people have fought to establish before, because they were not established on basis of issues, economic issues, security issues.
That's what I was coming to.
But established on the basis of individual interests. And those cracks were deepening, and they crashed because of that. They did not succeed. Like I said, only one person succeeded in that endeavor, and that person was Erling. And it was not in the form of the conventional alliance or coalition. It was in the form of dissolving the political parties to build one political party to emerge as a new political party. And that's the only way the idea of coalition or alliance work in Liberia, and it work with Madame Selig. So what we are saying to these guys, to Bronsky, to I hope he gets better, to Cummins, to Joekai, is that, hey, you guys are reaching to the point of real failure in terms of providing a suitable alternative for the Liberian people. And we are ready to rise to the occasion to seize the moment, because providing leadership in our country, what it takes, we all possess everything it takes. What we look for in ensuring our country is better, is providing better healthcare, affordable, accessible, is providing better education, affordable, accessible, is making sure that we build a strong public-private sector relationship so that employment is not about government, but the private sector is empowered to employ the Liberian people, businesses, entrepreneurship development. We are aware of that. So it's not just about them. So this time we're taking it another step further. I don't see any danger here, Dennis and Randolph, because like I said, we are not sitting supinely and watching. We are involved. We are having conversations.
Right.
So that there is no void created in 2023 that will give Joshua again the opportunity to continuously take our country down the road. No.
Thank you. And I'm going to bring you into the discussion, because I've always maintained that it should not be about the who, but it should be about the what. It looked like we ourselves, or the population, create these people that Joekai described, because anytime there is election, we are not talking about what needs to be changed. We are talking about who should be president. So anytime you mention, now there is a new nomenclature in our political organization called political leader. We never had that before. What used to happen was we have a standard bearer. So we have a party chairman. When we are going into elections, you have the standard bearer.
Let me borrow your word, patronage.
Right. So now we have this political leader. So it means even before elections start, we already know who's going to run on the party ticket. And people in the party tend to worship and pump such a person up, giving no role for any emerging leader in that political party. So if that person dies, that's the end of the party. Randolph, your view on prioritizing the who instead of the what, because if there are anything that needs to be changed in that country, number one will be to take away the power of the president. If the president has so much power, even if you put Randolph Glee and Joekai combined, you still have the same problem, because there's too much power and human beings love that power. Randolph, your thoughts before we, and if you are just joining us, or I've posted our conference line, come on in and let's have the discussion all together. Randolph, your view before we move on to the next issue.
Yeah, for me, I just said from the beginning that this particular thing, I believe, look, the three political institutions in Liberia are those political institutions on the campuses of the University of Liberia. Because
you're kidding.
See, Sue, and Studa, no one can tell you, saying before convention, you already know your senator. No. You're going to contest. You're going to battle. That's how political institutions should be. But nowadays, when we talk about Liberty Party, the only person we're thinking about is Bronsky. When you talk about ANC, you're only talking about Cummins. When you talk about CDC, Josiah. So at the time Josiah had been ricocheted, he go as vice president, he go as senator, he go as vice president, he go as senator. So I believe with this, what has happened, people who have ideas, because creativity, innovation brings creativity. People with a lot of ideas that have learned, that have gone and studied different areas, no way for them to come in. Because as long as they talk about convention, they already know who's going to be. And those guys are already sitting there saying, well, they're going to come for me. So I believe we can put our forces now together. Those guys have failed us. If they are now willing to take decision, we tag them. In fact, all of them past 50. All of them past 60. Why is it that we're still gearing at them when there is a new era, a new generation? We're looking for people that will be innovative and creative to bring our nation on par. If you bring back Bronski, what's going to change? If you bring back Walker, what's going to change? But if you give Joe now the chance to say, hey, let him take over, the first thing, he knows the pressure behind him. And it is not just about him, it's about the generation behind him. So he's going to fight. So I believe we should drop that particular thing. And one of the things that are causing that, you can't do that in America here because people pay money for their campaign. But back home, it's all about when you get to give me money, let me eat for 1 week and suffer for 6 years. So people got their belly moving around asking for money.
Okay, Randall,
it's a whole new game that we need to teach. Yeah.
Let me bring in your caller. Caller, your name and where you calling from. We got a caller on the line. Caller, your name and where you calling from. All right. Let's go to our next topic. I know you guys are not economists, but the printing of the new banknotes. That's something that we heard. I think the president has asked the body responsible for that authorization to authorize the printing of new banknotes. Good idea, bad idea? What's that? Joekai.
Hello?
Hello, okay.
Yes, hello.
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Hello? I hear you just fine. I hear you fine, sir.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, I will give the chance to 703. So, 443, I'll put you on.
Hello?
First.
Yeah.
Okay, 703-22, your last number is 6420. Go ahead, your question, your name and where you calling from.
Hey, Dennis, how you doing? I'm your loyal expected fan or returnee. I'm calling you from Washington, D.C. My name is Eastman. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm glad you called in. Welcome to Focus.
Yes. Yes. My question, it's about what was said on the program just now, that the president had too much power. Okay. What I do believe, in the absence of other power, it will appear that the president has too much power. In other words, power in a democratic environment, or our democracy, is distributed between the judiciary, the legislative, and the executive branch. Okay, if these two other bodies are not functioning, the way they should, right, and they can relinquish their power to the executive. But and that what will make the executive appear very powerful is because these other bodies are not exercising the power the way it should be. They have become, subjective to the executive branch, which they should not be. If these functions, and that is why they were set up to make them autonomous. It was set up that the Chief Justice could not be manipulated politically. It was set up so that all the members of the legislative branch were individually elected by their constituents, and they in turn would elect a Speaker of the House who would head that body. Okay, what has been happening is they have relinquished their power to the executive. And we need them to function the way they should function. That will balance the power there is. Okay? And so it's not so much that the executive has usurped the power from the other branches, it's that they have relinquished or they have submitted themselves to the power of the executive.
Good
You
point.
know? And that's the only point I wanted to make.
Thank you. Good point. Before I bring in my next caller, Joekai, your response to Ismail.
I think we did not actually discuss the issue of the executive, having so much power. We're discussing.
No, I mentioned that.
The CPP, and you just mentioned in passing. So actually, Ismail is right to some extent. But let me add that the Constitution, the way it is structured, especially the aspect on the executive, gives too much power to the president. And it, in fact, makes the president an imperial president. It doesn't matter who that president is. It really takes somebody with the heart who doesn't want to rule, but who wants to lead, to be able to say, hey, the first action that we need to take is to give the Liberian people a new constitution that reflects the devolution of power, where you don't have a centralized administrative system, where you are able to give power to the locals in a way that they are able to generate their own resources to conduct their affairs, and you provide overall leadership so that everyone can have a sense of belongingness in the governance of the state. I think that what it requires. I also agree that when the other branches of government in their coordinate arrangement submit or surrender their authorities to the executive, then they become powerless and they arrogate more powers onto the executive. I do agree that it's been working in our political system. There's a history to that. But I also equally agree that the law fundamentally gives the executive so much power. When the president is responsible to nominate ministers and follow up with senators to ensure their confirmation or withhold benefits to the Senate or the House of Representatives, when the president is responsible to appoint local leaders and ensure that
principle.
Say that?
Principle is the president's
the principles of setting schools and local leaders, appointing ambassadors, and ensuring the implementation of the national plan of the government, sometimes in many instances void of the role of the legislature, because the legislature is already complacent with the gifts, the overwhelming gifts that come from the executive. So you really need, that's why you need men and women with the heart, who understand that they have a responsibility to the state, not to individuals, to lead our country. So that's what I...
My next caller. Caller, your name and where you calling from?
Hello, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. Now, my name is Professor Davis, and I'm calling from Fort Washington, Maryland. How are you?
I'm great. Professor Davis, your question or comment, and welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thanks so much. Well, my comment is this. Dennis, I think that you guys are having the wrong conversation. Politics is actually killing Liberia. And let me I'll be very, very brief because I know you have other callers on the line. But here's what I'm talking about. You're talking about a country that went through a 14-year civil war. Roughly 250,000 people were killed. And after the war, nothing really has happened of substance. Take for example, Rwanda, who within 3 months, 1 million people were killed. But they were able, the folks from Rwanda were able to kind of move beyond the ethnic politics of their country. And now look at them today. They're one of the wealthiest countries on the African continent. And I look at Liberia, which is, to me, a disgrace because here it is, a country birthed out of America, the most powerful nation on the face of the globe. And Liberia is basically a basket case, which it should not be. The country has been around for 172 years and nothing has changed. Politics, it's irrelevant. What needs to happen is people need to move beyond politics and get busy and build a country. And that's not going to happen. I look online and so many Liberians are talking about politics. It's irrelevant. Build the country. Rwanda did it. They went through 1 million people. Think about this, Dennis. In 3 months were killed in Rwanda. And look at Rwanda, in 2019. It is an emerging, highly developed country on the African continent. Liberia is a basket case. It's a basket case. It's embarrassing. It was birthed out of the most powerful nation on the face of the globe. It should, under President Tolbert, Liberia was a middle-income country with a per capita income that was equal to that of Japan. It was one of the wealthiest countries on the African continent. People from all over Africa used to go to Liberia because what? It was the land of opportunity in Africa. But look at it today. People are playing politics. That's all I have to say. Thanks for accepting my call.
Yeah, before you go, Professor Davis, when you said people need to move beyond politics and build a nation, give me a concrete example. What is specific that people need to do beyond politics?
Well, you know what? Well, let me just say, for example, okay. And the gentleman mentioned Alexander Cummings, for example, who clearly, in my view, and I'm not Liberian, this guy, in my view, should have been the best candidate to lead this country. I mean, his resume speaks for itself. And even during the campaign, Mr. Cummings went to all of the debates, and Mr. Weah, President Weah, who's in office, did not. As an American, I am shocked that he's president. I'm thinking to myself, how can a soccer player be the president of the United States? I mean, it actually makes no sense. And again, Liberia was birthed out of America. Although America has many problems, it is a superpower. Liberia should be where South Korea is today.
Yeah, okay.
And as a matter of fact, here's what I believe. If Tolbert would have lived, in my view, if Tolbert would have lived, Liberia would have probably been clearly middle income to wealthy. But today it's a basket case.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Davis.
All right.
Thank you.
Let me come in.
Oh, all right.
I hope it stays on.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. This is Randolph.
Go ahead.
And let me respond to the professor quickly. And thank you so much for calling, and I really appreciate your call. But if you're telling us that we should move beyond politics and develop the country, Rwanda you're talking about is moving because of the leader in Rwanda.
Leadership, yeah.
The standard he has set that he's following. He's following their constitution, and he's even improving it. So you can even bring the most, you bring all of the best policy. In fact, most of our policy is patterned after the American. But why is it not working? Because we are not having the kind of people. So to forget about talking about it and thinking about development is just difficult. Why you think people have to vote Joshua instead of calling? Because the conversation we're having now, we're not having it. And you're telling Liberians that, Liberians, where is it that Liberians have to go vote Joshua? Yes. If America can vote Donald Trump, why Liberians should not vote Joshua? Donald Trump said the worst. He went against some things, some ethics. He insulted in debate. But yet instead he was voted. So what I'm saying here, Professor, we need to have some conversation. And that's some of the conversation we're having, talking about the politics, how we should shift from what we had before and just not going after people's popularity, but we should be able to go after people because of their legacy and their record. And if Kony has the best one, that can be marketed.
Right. Thank you, Randolph. Before you come in, Eastman did not.
Dennis?
Eastman,
hey, Dennis?
ask your question quickly.
Yes, I like the professor brings up a point. It's confusing why after all these years we're finding it difficult in navigating toward economic prosperity. But even during the early days of the U.S., I think it was Ben Franklin or one of the drafters of the Constitution. They mentioned that the electorate has to be educated. They have to be aware of what is good for them. They have to be cued in as to national economics, and all the other policies. When our electorate is going to vote for somebody who they find popular, then the issues, the technical issues, and all those other things that are need to be discussed and debated on are not are not, the population are not aware. They lack the knowledge in these areas to discuss it at a level, okay? And that is part of why we have the issue. And even you still need a framework under which you can develop. And we've chosen one that we have not properly adapted to, okay? And that is why you see that they're more concerned with talking instead of building, all right? We need continuity. We've had a disruption, and we have these different differences between us, and we have not found a way to resolve our differences where we put Liberia first, you know? But then it comes again to our education, okay, and our awareness.
Thank you, Jimmy. That is correct. In order for us to move forward, we need an informed and educated citizenry. That's the only way we can participate in democracy. And so with results, Randolph, you talk about leadership. That's the same question, or Dave just said that, but Rwanda has a leadership that has guided the process. So in order to move ahead, and then he also mentioned that Mr. Ellis Comey had the best resume. So Dave Jai also saying Dr. Tipote also had the best resume. So these are issues that we can use, just one shot to determine. But the result can come as this can come as a result of the discussion that we are having right now. So I believe it's necessary to talk about this thing. Joekai, you wanted to come in, so go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I share the anxiety of the professor, but actually in grief his indulgence, because look, in order for development to take place in any nation, you need to have a productive and decent leadership, leadership with a focus and strategic direction. So development does not take place in absentia or in vacuum. So it is with Liberia. Our current political, economic, and social decadence did not happen, by accident. It's deeply rooted in our history, in our existence as a country. We've had successive governments in our country that have never prioritized the development of the people in terms of their economic standing and the infrastructure of our nation to reflect actually who we are in terms of our age as a nation. That has not happened in our country. So this time around, because of the limited understanding of the citizenry of the country in terms of their understanding their roles, rights, and responsibilities, which should help them to make the best decision, they were able to prioritize just a footballer, somebody who is gifted in soccer, over other people who have credentials. But again, don't forget, this is because of the structure of our political system. I told you from the outset of the conversation that it has never been about the issues. It has never been about the economy. It has never been about education, about healthcare. It has never been about security. It has never been about our foreign policy. It has always been about individuals, the names of people. And our politics cannot continue on that trajectory. What we need to do now is to rise to the occasion, those of us of this generation, to ensure that we change that dynamics. That's what we need to do. So the professor needs to understand that Rwanda did not get to where it is by accident. I can tell you that when Rwanda started her process, it was Liberia they came to get the policies for the arms management regime. I worked with the security sector before in transforming Liberia's security following the war. So it was Liberia that the Rwandan delegation came to borrow our regime, our arms management regime, to be able to replicate that in their country. Just last year, Nigeria Presidential Task Force set up by the President Buhari went to Liberia to borrow from our arms management regime to establish their own arms management commission in Nigeria. So the problem is not about policies in Liberia. The problem is about having the leadership, the competent leadership, the leadership with the heart to be able to implement those policies scrupulously in the interest of the nation, not in the interest of individuals. That is the focus of our problem. And we have to change that dynamics. That's why we need to situate ourselves better to ensure that we put our country back on the right trajectory by ensuring that the right leadership is in place. In 2023, we cannot create a leadership void further by re-electing George Weah in 2023, because it would be like having no leadership. That's exactly what you're going to be doing in the country.
Okay. Thank you. We have 15 more minutes for this to be over, and we have so many issues, but it's all good. This is our own program. So I talk about the printing of the new banknotes, the War and Economic Crimes Court, the next 2020 vote, the economic dialogue, disaster management, and the armor tank. Mr. Glee, pick one of them.
And I want to talk about the printing of the new banknote. The printing of the new banknote, I'm not an economist, and I'm a social scientist, but to print new banknote now with a proper account of how much in circulation, I'm a prayer. Because you're printing a new note to get what you have on the market out, right?
Yeah.
But you're telling us you don't know what is in circulation, but you have agreed to print some 35 million or billion or whatever. So what yardstick did you use to know what is out? Because I know for every time you change your money, you already have something, you know what is circulating for you to get it out. So how are they going to print this out? Is it necessary to change the money? I say yes. Yes, because the money, I don't know where is it in Liberia. Many days I was restricted by EcoBank. The University of Liberia sent my salary there, and I get there to withdraw. EcoBank is telling me you can't take more than 10,000 hours. You can't take more than 5,000 hours. And they give you mutilated money. So there's new money that was printed, that was brought into the country. And they talk about 16 billion or how many billion. Where is it? We can get a count of it and you're printing another money. Because when you check, there are 2 counts of $20 on the Liberian market. There are 2 counts of $100 on the Liberian market. There are 2 counts of $5 on the market. And you're telling me you don't know how much in circulation you're about to print. So many will have 3 of each.
No, they say
so it is not just about printing. It's about giving us how much in circulation because you can print it.
Thank you.
Because you're going to use taxpayer money to print that money. It's not just free. So for me, I look at printing of this particular money, scary. Somebody have to tell us how much in circulation.
And what's the plan to replace it? Because there was mop up that did not mop up.
No, so, there was a mop up that messed up. There was a mop up that messed up. Someone started giving money to bureau that was not even registered. I'm just afraid.
Okay.
Because when I was in Monrovia, when they put out the list, when I saw some bureau on 12th Street that is not registered name there that they give them money, why people should be playing games with whole country as though they're playing in like classroom or maybe behind their house? We need some responsible leaders, people who will give an account of this country money. Integrity matters so much. So for me, I'm very afraid. I really don't see it solving the problem, but I see it escalating because if you put out 35 million or 35 billion, and what is in circulation is more, how will someone bring their money to be exchanged? What are you going to tell them?
Okay.
So this is my problem.
Thank you. Let me go to Joekai if you want to talk about the money, or you want to talk about anything else that's on the list.
Let me just add a little bit regarding the printing of the new banknotes. I'm not an economist, so I'm not going to discuss the chemistry in terms of the economics of it. But let me give you some indicators that should scare anyone, from the news that this government wants to print. additional banknotes to infuse the economy. The 2019 Economic Freedom Index post Liberia at 49.7%, 49.7% among countries of sub-Saharan Africa. And there are about those 47 countries, Liberia ranks 37%, meaning that there is a dramatic drop within the area of the government's integrity. The government integrity has dramatically dropped. There is no trust and confidence in the government by the people. Fiscal management is very, very poor. Fiscal management, the issue of unemployment, the issue of inflation. And if you look at that report and the World Bank report, they are almost consistent as far as inflation stands right now, somewhere around 28.5%. Since it was 23.3 around there in April, it has increased astronomically. These are serious concerns because when a government does not have the integrity, does not have fiscal discipline, and that government is talking about printing around 35 billion Liberian dollars to infuse in an economy that they have just infused $16 billion in from 2017 till now, and also additional 25 million, which is a very huge number of billions of Liberian dollars. You are going close to talking about infusing 80 to 90 billion Liberian dollars in that small community, that small economy of about 4.5 million people, and putting surplus money into circulation. I'm not sure right now with this government that is having serious integrity issue, that lacks fiscal discipline, where it is seriously involved with unauthorized spendings all across the place. Right now, the president is in the US. I'm hearing that his delegation size is about 60. So an economy of that nature that is crashing. Someone will be asking, where are you taking the resources from to travel with that number of persons to bring them to one meeting, to the United Nations, meeting here in the US?
And Mr. Joekai, we always hear about that figure, and which the government denied. Has there been any independent report of this number of people traveling with the president?
I know very well that I was at the United Nations headquarters for the last on-guy meeting, and what I saw, I was shocked in terms of the people who came. Even people from Sports Authority, they were here, from Sports Ministry, from other ministries, from different places, who should have nothing to do with the president visit here to the U.S. They were here.
You are sure they are part of the president's delegation?
I can confirm the current 60. That's why I said we are hearing you. I mean, I said that from the outset. I didn't say it's confirmed. I said that, and these things, the government has not denied these things in a way or clarify in a way that the Liberian people believe it. The government is having serious trust issues, not just with the Liberian people, but with the international community. The government is having serious trust issues because of the way it is handling the economy. It is poorly managing the country. So when a government of that nature that is still has credibility questions choking it on the issue of the 16 billion, Joshua was part of the past government. In fact, they were the one who was supposed to authorize the printing of the 16 billion. Joelle Howard Taylor was part of it. She's now vice president. The current speaker was part of that government. They were all involved. Up to now, we are still asking for accountability, how the 16 billion was used. George Weah, then senator, now president. Joelle Howard Taylor, then senator, now vice president. Buffer Chambers, then representative, now speaker. Even the deputy speaker. All of them were involved. No one up to now has been able to account to the Liberian people about the 16 billion. You have a 25 million that they say, quote unquote, was infused. But what was the outcome of infusing or mopping up excess liquidity to make sure that you bring stability between the US and the Liberian dollar exchange rate, the market? Where is the rate today? It's skyrocketing, and because of that, inflation is so high. You find the prices of basic commodities just rising, and the hardship is coming as a result of that. How can a government of this nature want to infuse that magnitude of money again in an economy that is so struggling. So for me, in the first place, they lack the integrity. They lack the standing by any measure to talk about infusing money. They need the assistance of sound economists, both Liberians and economists from international organizations like the IMF, the World Bank, to really advise them to take in the advice. The World Bank tried her last report to make recommendations, but the government is insensitive and is responding arrogantly to that report. The U.S. State Department report, the last report, was damning. It talks about inefficiencies across functionaries of government and what step government should take to address those issues. Those are fundamental issues you need to take to ensure that you put the government on the right trajectory to improve the economy. When you are having square pegs in round holes, you are not able to address issues. You can't talk about reviving the economy. It's not possible. Those are fundamental actions that should be taken.
Thank you,
The
Mr.
economic dialogue, then we're talking about the money issue, the economic dialogue, then I don't have to go to it. The issue of the economic dialogue they had in Monrovia, my first comment that I made to that, my first reaction was that there was no need for that. Because the government has to its disposal several expert opinions on how to revive the economy.
Thank you.
The World Bank report, the U.S. State Department report, recommendations from the investigative committees on the 25 million, on the 16 billion. Liberians like the Aliyu Nyang, the Bwaka Jaliba, their team, the CIPA report that they gave the government, even the petition that was given to the government. These are collections of recommendations that the government needs to put together expert Liberians who are able to work on this. But again, in the government, fundamentally, the government is not situated to revive the economy because you have the wrong people in the places to ensure that this revitalization can take place. It's not possible. So it's not just about printing money. It's not about the magnitude of money that can revive the economy. That is an archaic or incomprehensible economic strategy. I don't know where to borrow that from. That's not possible.
Okay, thank you. And every Wednesday we have our economic forum. We're going to take time to delve into it. We have some economists. This is the one issue I want us to conclude with tonight. That's on looking forward to 2020. We are supposed to have elections in 2020 for senators. I think the just elected Senator Dallas Dillon will be contesting. So let's look for our last, I will give you like 1 minute, 30 seconds each. Let's look into 2020 and see what Randolph, look through your crystal ball 2020 about elections. You are from Nimba County. How is Prince Johnson standing? How is Dillon? You know, let's look at first, can we afford election 2020? And what do you see happening as a result? Do you see new faces? Do you see people being replaced? What do you see 2020?
I believe 2020, we need to open a new page. I'm from Nimba, and if I was the only person voting in Nimba, I believe it is about time to retire Prince Johnson. And he has had 18 years. That is enough. He needs to sit and rest. And how they call him, and the next senator there, how they call him, Tuti, he also needs to give a face to another person. That, because, you know, for every time you stay so long in one thing, doing it over and over, you lack innovation and creativity. So I believe the government, like when I was picking up the line, I listened to Joekai when he was talking about us going to get funding. And as long as you're going to get funding from people for election, they're going to tell you how to run your election. And what they're going to tell you that what you're going to follow. So I believe 2020 is about time that bring some young guys on board. That bring some young people on board, and let's see whether they will be able to change. Because now pressure behind Darius Dillon, if even he was ever corrupt or he was ever doing anything, he's almost like a bird sitting in a tree without leaves. So everything he does, people looking at him. So I believe that brings some young faces. But let's take for example my county Nima. He doesn't seem like he owes nothing to nobody in Nima. He's the only person, when Prince has spoken, it's over. And nobody speak again. And now they say I was there, the elders giving the county. So for him, I believe that
So
anything you want to do
you were not part of the elders that turned the county over to him?
But I'm not elder. The elder who decided to give, I don't know for what reason they gave it to him. What has he done? What legacy, what mark he leaving? He's more division than being productive. So I don't know what reason they gave it to him. But the elders can best decide. I respect their decision. I'm too young to go against the elder. But as an independent young man coming up, I see no reason. But I support it, whosoever. But anyone, like either Wai Gonglo, whosoever that contesting against Group E, I'm going to support them. Because the whole breed we have on board, they have all reduced themselves to just a mere bare ball or pocket to the presidency. Whatever the presidency that's it. We need somebody that will stay in the face of government to stay. Let me use the time to also respect and this guy Brodsky. In the midst of Taylor, all of his revolution, Brodsky stood for a cause. He stood out when he was in the parliament. Why can't we have people like that nowadays in the parliament? Everybody there dancing to the rhythm of the president, and when the president says so, Prince Johnson told us that Joshua was our son because he said cozy, and things not in line. Now he's saying that the man is a womanizer. Who's going to be listening to such a game? So I believe the best we can do, let's try to bring new faces and believe in God that maybe they will work in the interest of the Liberian people and not in the interest of their pocket.
Thank you. Mr. Joekai, 2020, what do you say?
Trust me, from my background, I think if certain fundamental things are not done, 2020 will be chaotic from the management aspect. I've said this over and over, the current voter roll, which is critical in the conduct of any election that is supposed to be deemed credible, is not worthy of use in 2020. That voter roll has several issues. There has to be a brand new voter registration. That voter roll has not been vetted to ensure, to guarantee its credibility. The NEC is still using a separate online voter roll that political parties don't have input to. That roll is there. She was warned, advised by the Supreme Court during the 2017 elections case involving Bronsky and the Elections Commission to delete that roll. That roll has not been deleted. It was just proven during Taylor Uris during the District 15 election that it was not deleted. There were people who were voting by being identified on the cell phone by NEC staff workers, field workers, and their names were not on the final registration roll at all. By any measure, it wasn't. That is very dangerous. If that continues 2020, the election is not going to be credible. It's going to be chaotic because there will be confusion and people will not only be identified by the final registration roll. That's for the management aspect of the election. Political parties will have to ensure that there is a brand new voter registration that will take place. The other thing is that from the political party standpoint, if the opposition will make any impart in 2020, it has to be reflective of the genuineness of the processes that are on course right now. Political parties, I don't see them, the constituent political parties of the CCP, I don't see them discussing with concerted arrangement for legalizing their status. I see individual political parties talking about holding their conventions, and I see some of them holding firmly to the ideals that their political leaders will be the one elected in 2023. They're not discussing as a body, and they're not proceeding with a common front. Absolutely. And when Dillon was elected, let me just give you a classic example. When Dillon was elected, they became very complacent after Dillon's victory. And that is why District 15 election went the way it went. Taylor Uris election from the rerun. The CPP did not engage with it as a body. The CPP was not firm, was not forceful as they were in the case of Dillon. They became very complacent. You didn't see that unity. In fact, there were disparaging statements there were statements, divergent statements coming from members of the CPP, different dimensions of it. It didn't show any unity and cooperation. Going to 2020, if they are going to succeed to flip seats in the different counties, trust me, they must do better now in terms of organization and commitment. If that is not done, then they still going to have the political void. And I always call it political void because when you have a group of people in power who are not performing in keeping with their responsibilities, not performing their duties, they're not efficiently performing to the wishes and aspirations of the people, you have a void. That's a void. So if they have to work.
There's a question here for you before you continue. When you talk about experts coming in to help the economy, Moe District, that's Gaka Moe, is asking, how are those experts? Where are they work? So he said you were recommending experts coming from the IMF and from other Liberians. He's saying, who are they? What's their experience?
But I identify where they should come from. Firstly, I prioritize Liberians. We're not short of experts, economic experts. And the reason why I gave the global dimension, because we are in a global community and this is happening across the world. So it must be consistent with best practices. And if you look at Rwanda, we can borrow from the strategies, the policies. If you look at Ghana, in some respect, we can borrow from the strategies, even from East Africa. We can do that if you look at countries there. Some of them are doing well. So if you look at Liberians who have studied across the world, they have wealth of knowledge in different respects that can contribute significantly to the revitalization of our economy. That's what I'm talking about. And it is the lack of those expertise that we have in we as government that is making it to fail so dramatically. And the failure is not just about seeing a government fail, but this is at the expense of the Liberian people. They are the ones feeling the unbearable and harsh situation in the country. So there is a need to bring Liberians on board. They should not be about tribal connections, not about political affiliation. They should be about rescuing our economy and making sure that we restore sanity to our nation.
There's a question here too for you, Mr. Glee. You may mention that if Mrs. Edith Gonglo Ware goes against Groupie, you'll be supporting Edith.
Yeah.
PT Noah Sampon say Edith is not the face we're talking about. What's your response?
I don't know from what perspective he's talking about that Edith is not the face, but Edith is a lady with integrity, and she's educated, and she stands for the truth. Except maybe where he differ with her, he can come out to give the clarity. But when I'm talking about, that's the name that we're hearing now that she's willing to contest this coming election. So if T-Noir can come up with a name to say, oh no, Edith is not the face, but I want this face, or Edith has failed, so I want this face, then that would be the case. But for me, I believe in her work, and I know what she's capable of doing. She's goal-oriented, and I believe that when she becomes one of the lone voice among those men there, I think when you have a mother somewhere, she will be able to think and try to convince them to think about their country. But I believe all the guys now are just thinking what they can get for themselves and not the country. That's what I said. But P-Noir can come up with another person that he knows very well.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you guys so much for, I just want us to conclude on this last one, which you can wrap up in your final thoughts. That's about our political discourse. Today, I posted even on my Facebook that it looked like now political disagreement is like we enemies. You know, people that are part of the same political thinking, like we have people running around on internet now under the name of advocates, even though those are merely partisans. Sometimes you find out that to even say hello to somebody, the two of you must be speaking the same political language. It's like we cannot be friends if we are not in that same political, which are called political cult. It's like we are forming cults now. It's no more political parties. They are like secret societies and fraternities and gangs. It's no more that we can have a frank exchange of ideas without maligning one another. Our political discourse insults. I mean, somebody sent up something to me and posted it, the president is an idiot. And that's the title of your Facebook live post. And it's insult. I mean, people are insulting women. There's another group of women that came out and said, no, we got to stop people from insulting women. And sometimes when they are doing this insult, I mean, that's free expression, I get it. But sometimes vast of the people that support and cheer them on are fellow women. Let's conclude with our political discourse, what we think is wrong with it, how can we fix it, and the absence of this genuine political exchange, where it's leading us. Joekai, you go first.
All right, let me take.
Okay.
Yeah, Joekai, go first.
Okay, Dennis is simple. That's the extent of the desperation for power in our country. People going for it, using every means possible, and it's all part of the insanity that we've brought to our political landscape. You know, when I talk about political cleansing in our country, that's what I mean. We need decency. We need to be able to engage each other based on issues. We cannot proceed with our politics from an individual or personal standpoint. We should be talking to each other about improving our political system based on issues in our country. So much is supposed to happen. Look at what happened right now on your show. The comments from that professor, I felt very insulted, and it's true. I felt insulted, it's true. And the truth of the matter is that George Weah is just a wrong representation of our generation. By right this time, we're supposed to be talking about a serious improvement in our economy, every aspect of leadership in our country. But that was just for all the wrong reasons for which he was elected. And so we are feeling the brunt of it right now. But it doesn't mean that we should go to the extreme. We should be able to engage each other with a good level of decency. We should be able to proceed with the discussion of the issues that are affecting us, because the issue of healthcare is not affecting one person. Why you want to exchange relations with another person? Issue of education is not affecting one person. All of our children, our relatives are involved. The issue of security is not affecting one person in our country. Our foreign, look, our reputation as a nation, our image, I mean, it's affecting every Liberian, wherever you find yourself. Even you, Dennis, where you are, Randolph, where you are, in your workplace and other places, you become embarrassed, shame and embarrassed, like in the words of the professor who came on the show. So why do we want to have exchange relations when we're talking about a situation that affects all of us? I think we should approach it with some degree of decency, and we should reflect that so that we are able to talk about the issues, come to one understanding, to be able to make decisions that can help to revive the situation. Otherwise, we remain in the state we are. And this is the divide we've had in our country that we have to deal with. This divide cannot exist and then we transform the country. It's not possible. So when people are holding firmly to the belief that their quote unquote political leader is the next president of the country, irrespective of what impact can the person make in terms of the transformation of the situation in our country, then it's a dangerous politics. But when you say that your political leader is ready to sit with the political leader of Dennis Yah, with the political leader of Rana, if I ought to have any, they are able to come to the table to be able to sit to talk about the issues, how they can navigate, you know, all of those issues one by one and come up with reasonable strategies to deal with it. Then they can work together as a team. That's what we should be forging instead of deepening the divide that exists in our country. I think this is a worthy conversation. In closing, I'd like to extend thanks and appreciation to you once more for inviting me. Like I've always said, it's an opportunity for me to share in the conversation about Liberia. I can never get tired talking about my country. And we are ready. We're not wavering, stronger, convicted. I mean, we are convinced than ever before that Liberia is going to be better because, like I said, we're not going to allow that void to exist politically. We are prepared to fill that void if the guys who are right now on the stage fail to do the things that they are supposed to do. Thank you very much.
Mr. Glee.
All right. And for me, I believe it all has to do with foundation. Because if politically you are built in high school, junior high, university, these are minor contradictions in politics. You and I having differences on policy or political institutions, it does not reach the stage of insulting you and putting statement on Facebook that over 1 million people reading. After 10 years, that particular statement can be called back and used against you. But it all has to do with what? Foundation and moral ethics. Like Joekai said, it's all about desperation. Now it's my time. We should do everything. Like you have another guy on Facebook, you got Kaute all in your hand, see 24/7, you say he's preaching politics. So sometimes it all has to do with orientation. But I believe we used to have the heated argument on the campuses of the university. Right after we retire campus, we are bullied. We sitting and talking. When we get back, everybody goes into the political arena. You go to your political area and we talk. And that's how, because, take for example, Gafwan. Gafwan came from Soup on your campus. But everywhere Gafwan has ever worked, he always took along with him former chairman of students. You know what happening? He sees something in him. So if we ever have a better political institution, we should not be reaching the point of the extreme. Because I could work with you, you could work with me in certain area for the good of Liberia. But if you just insult everybody for all other political institutions, you think tomorrow, if ANC or BNC or whatever political party wins, you think you not need somebody from the opposition political party? I had a time one time to talk to Cummings, to a foundation on the Oro. He told me, he said, Randolph, the people want me to be talking a whole lot of things and insulting, but I believe when I'm speaking, I should speak with facts. Those of you who insulting, I start with the man at what he's saying, but you insulting for him. So my request to them, you have the time to market your political institution, but also leave room that the next person sitting somewhere tomorrow could be your employer, or you could be his employee, or you could meet outside instead of politics. So I just want to take this time to say thank you to the Focus on Africa, Focus on Liberia family for this particular time, and we will always be here to talk about it. And I'm looking to the time that we will have the time to talk about our University of Liberia, where we want to share the new ideas and what's going on with the university and how we get it on path, how we have different activities and a lot of stuff that goes on. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And on that, there's one comment here too from Annie W. Bradrick. She says, the danger of Liberian politics today is the polarization of issues which lack the objectivity of patriotism and nationalism. And that's a fair point. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for the discussion. You know, we, as Joekai mentioned earlier, let us not get tired of talking about Liberia. Sometimes people tell us, oh, you guys just talk. Yes, it begins with talking. You know, you got to talk. You got to educate people. You got to let people know where you stand. Sometimes they say, oh, what you are doing, it doesn't help Liberia, it doesn't put food on the table. Well, not all of us are going to be feeding people. There are some of us who are going to talk. There are some of us who are going to educate. There are some of us who are going to enlighten. This is a whole big country. If each of us take a little piece of role that we can play, at the end, we can have the Liberia we all want. I want to thank all our viewers on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you for those who call in to ask questions and participate in the discussion. This Wednesday, we're going to be coming with you with our Economic and Business Forum, and we're going to be discussing the economics of sports. The economics of sports. So tune in this Wednesday at 7 p.m. for that discussion. Until then, on behalf of my co-host Danielle, knuckles-guishard, and my guest relations manager, I want to say thank you to you guys. Thank to all our listeners. Good night and God bless you. We are one people.